When I was in college, I really, really wanted to date a theater guy. I had it in my head that like the only person who could possibly understand me, could possibly get me, was a guy who did theater. That was it. That was where I said, but I didn't want to date anybody else. I had all. But to be fair, like I had the worst people pursuing me. My friend Ryan had a roommate named John Feuerstein who was just the worst. I recently read his parents apparently are fancy enough to give him a New York Times wedding announcement. He just got married, and the story that they told was basically how he tricked his girlfriend at the time into dating him so he could get closer to the woman who's now his wife. Like, this is the story that they told me. It's like, you don't usually let people know that. But, like, that guy, John Feuerstein, who did not do theater, tricked me into going to a party with him in college by telling me that there would be pie. And I feel like, in retrospect, he probably understood me a lot better than I gave him credit for, because I went to that party, and I was really disappointed when there wasn't any pie. It ruined my evening. But that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted a theater guy. But the problem was, I'm sure, as in most colleges, in my college, dating a theater guy was like winning the lottery, because you know, you could probably find yourself as a heterosexual female, you could probably find yourself a boyfriend who was gay. You could probably even find yourself a straight girl who'd be willing to date you. But finding yourself that like elusive straight guy who wasn't, you know, actually gay, or bonkers like a possum, or actually in like a committed and loving, wonderful relationship was pretty much impossible. So it blew my mind when, like, while I was in college, this one, like, coveted guy broke up with his girlfriend, and for like one beautiful, inexplicable moment, he was single, and this like tiny little window of opportunity opened. And for this one beautiful, inexplicable moment, I was like, maybe it could be me. And so I asked him out. And he was like, I guess so. And I was like, it's set, it's settled, like we're gonna be the power couple. If I had known famous stage actors, I would have said their names, but at the time I was like, we'll be like Brad and Angelina, only then I think it was probably Brad and Jennifer Aniston. I was like, that'll be us, and it'll be perfect, and he'll get me. So I picked this tea bar to go to where I had worked. Because I knew, you know, because I had asked him I should pay, but he might try to be a gentleman and pay, and I didn't want to have to worry about that. So we just get everything for free if I took him to this place. He's called Tea Lux. I was like, that'll solve it. So, day of the date, I walked up to what was going to be our perfect fucking date. I walked up to Tea Lux, and it had this, like, gigantic brass door. Everything in there was brass, and when I worked there, like, when there was a lull, there wasn't anybody in there, I had to, like, get out all these chemicals and polish the fucking brass. But anyway, this door was really, really heavy. And normally it had one of those, like, weighted pressure things on it, so that, like, you know, when you let go of it, it did that, like, thing as it closed. But on this particular day, that weighted pressure thing wasn't there. It had broken for whatever reason, I don't know, it wasn't there. So I opened this door, you know, all confidence because I've been there before. And apparently I walked with my hand just trailing lazily behind me, because as soon as I like let the door go, it went bam, right on my thumb. And it hurt so much more than you would expect. And like, as soon as it hit my thumb, like, I lost vision. That's how much it hurt. Like, totally blacked out. I didn't faint, but I was like, I'm gonna vomit. Like, what happened? Why does this hurt so much? And it immediately turned purple underneath the thumbnail. I talked to my mom about it later, and she said when people show up at the emergency room with, like, injuries like that, where they hurt the finger underneath the thumbnail, they usually drill a hole in the nail to, like, yeah, you're welcome, to let the blood out to relieve the pressure, because drilling a hole through your thumbnail apparently is less painful than just letting it sit the way it is, the way that I was doing. So like, I just sat there like, why does this hurt so much? And I ran up to the counter, and the guys who I knew who worked there like helped me out. They gave me a Band-Aid or whatever, and of course like free tea, and of course a baked good, because they understood me. And so I sat down waiting for this guy to show up, and he was late. And with like every pulse, like literally like every heartbeat, it was like blackout, agonizing pain. So I got myself in this zone where I was like, just don't vomit. Just don't faint, and don't start to cry. And I had that like one moment where I was like, I could just reschedule this. I was like, no, but the window of opportunity is so tiny. Like, someone else to sweep them up. Our love will never have a chance to blossom. So I sat there, and when he finally walked in, I was probably sitting there like this. And he was like, hey, what's up? On my way over here, I was wondering, I was like, do you ever wonder if there are like alternate dimensions where there's like another Debbie sitting in another coffee shop in another dimension somewhere, thinking the exact same things that you're thinking, but in another world? I was like, no. No, I don't. Why are we talking about this? This is not the way this date is supposed to go. And all I could muster was, I hurt my thumb. And so we sat down, and he was like, okay, I'm sorry, that's a bummer, but yeah, like, what if in this some, like, alternate universe, you were you, but you had, like, a foot for a head, and, like, elbows for hands? And I was like, no, why and all I could muster was, they gave me a Band-Aid. And he was like, okay. And then he kept talking about, like, what if we had robot bodies, and our nerves were attached to human bodies, and blah, 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 blah. And I just sat there, and I did that thing that you do in class where you're like, I'm making my face look like I'm paying attention, but really something else is going on in my brain, like trying not to faint or vomit or cry. And so I sat there the entire time being like, you look like you're paying attention, pulse, blackout, okay, you look like you're paying attention, until he was like, yeah, I gotta go take my, study for my, like, Tibetan Buddhism class, or something else, like, pretentious and annoying. And, and I was like, okay, bye. And he left, and I'm sure he was like, she just doesn't get me. And I was sitting there, and I was like, he didn't get me. And I feel like the fantasy had been that I needed some like theater guy to make me happy, but the reality had been there the entire time, is that the thing that makes me happy is food. Simple as that, it's food. So if anyone wants to grab a bite after the show, you know that I'm game. Yeah.